Welcome back to the hustle and welcome back to the grind, everybody. And you know what? I was reading an article this morning from PwC and Fortune. And basically, they conglomerated a collection of responses from a lot of workers across the globe. 56,000 people were polled and had to do with their work environment. And this, in fact, resulted in some really alarming statistics, but really not that alarming if you really think about it, because I've been talking about this for quite some time, and it's true that we need to think about the bigger things in life and what really matters and not that next rung on the ladder, the corporate ladder, so to speak. So they said out of these 56,000 people that they polled, they actually saw a major increase in the amount of people that wanted to quit their job. That's right, the Great Resignation is alive and well, and it's sneaking in the back door. This is happening again. We heard it back in 2022 when they said about 18-19% were thinking about quitting or retiring or whatever. But now they've gone up to 28%. That's right, about a third of the workers polled across the globe all felt that it was time to leave. They were done. It was over. And of that, they said about a half of them were done simply because of the pressures, the stresses, the technology, doing more with less, overworked, underpaid, and strictly a matter of just doing a lot more work in general than they ever have. And all of this adds a whole new dimension because we've talked about the fact that life is way too short. It's too short to continue trying to climb these ladders. And this poll that they survey that they did also recognized that it was a lot to do with their current employment and their current bosses and their current jobs and their current careers, and the fact that in many cases, almost a half of them did not feel satisfied in their current workplace, even from a career perspective. So it's not always about, a dispute with their boss or a challenge or a toxic work environment. A lot of these people feel like they weren't getting anywhere. They're spinning their wheels in the mud and they just couldn't get of their career what they were hoping to. But that is the point that I'm trying to make. You'll never be satisfied. It's sort of this insatiable appetite for what's next and what's bigger. Because on top of that, over half of these folks, almost half of them, 43% said that they needed more money. They wanted a raise. And so that's a very sad state too when you think about we'll never have enough money. And that's why I always keep talking about the retirement game. I have never looked back. When I introduced my first video there, way back about my history and, going engineering, high voltage, and all of this work through my career and how it evolved me to a place where I was let go, basically adios. They felt that they didn't have the value in me, and that's fine. But many people responded and said, you know what? That's okay. You have great skill sets. You're a great personality. You should have no problems getting a new job. And while I appreciate every one of those positive comments, the fact remains is I don't want it. I'm starting to realize that you'll never make enough money. You'll never make enough money. You'll never have that perfect spot. And for those people looking for those career opportunities, remember, it's not that important. It really isn't. Because I'll tell you right now, if you're somebody and you're not doing particularly well and they're on their deathbed, the last thing they care about was their last highest held position. They don't care about their annual salary and the benefits package. They don't care about that network and their team and that big presentation and the big accolades. They don't care. It doesn't matter. But you know what? You spent all your time spinning your wheels, trying to move your way up the ladder, snake and ladder, trying to figure out how to get to that next big promotion, next big job opportunity. And then all of a sudden you get that big raise, you're up at a tax bracket. Next thing you know, the government slices more off the bottom line. So you've never got enough money. The biggest challenge is trying to find enough money in other ways. And you know what? I'm not here to try to pitch other than the fact people literally have lived beyond their means for years, and they continue to live beyond their means. They get into these corporate games. They feel they need to step up into that new great car, that SUV, to be competitive with John or Vern or Leroy or whatever. You know what? But that doesn't matter. None of that really matters. And you know what? I had somebody ask me the other day, what are you driving? And I said, I drive an '03 Ram. And I'm okay with that. And people somehow say, well, wait a minute. Oh, you get this sort of, and the same thing applies when I say I'm retired. There's this, what do you do for a living? Well, I work from home, or I'm basically semi-retired, or, because I do the side hustle. So I kind of have a mixed level of responses depending on the audience, but generally I'm retired. And then you get this, oh, yeah. See, because people have this attitude that if you're not climbing a ladder or trying to climb a ladder or trying to push and hustle and do all these things in a corporation or a big job or business, that you're somehow an isolated vagrant. You're not part of society, but none of that matters, because it's when you can get past all of that, when you can start to figure out that none of that really matters. What does matter is the fact that when you're 55 and you look down the barrel of, you might have 15 or 20 good years left. If you have 20 good years left, do the calculation, 365 times 20, where does that put you? That's not a lot of days, 7,000 some odd. You know what? It's not a lot of time. And so the bottom line is, people often lose sight of what matters. They lose sight of, spending those special moments with their family, spending those special moments with friends, maybe the one or two good friends they have, and not this network of fake falsities. See, having the quality of life doesn't mean driving that shiny new BMW. Having the quality of life doesn't mean, you're hosting the big meeting and everybody thinks you're the King Pops. That's not quality of life. Having that big shack parked up there. And yes, that's super if you can live within your means. And if they bought that cash or can afford it and they're not making big mortgage payments, hey, that's super. We don't all need to live in shanties and squat in little huts. That's not the point of life. Life is just to be comfortable. And if you can be comfortable and you had no problems attaining that, that's great. But a lot of times people aren't comfortable. They really, really burn themselves out, reduce their lifespan, reduce their quality of life, because now they're gaining weight throughout their careers. They're doing things to their body. The added stress is not good for the body at all, not good for the heart, the mind, the soul, anything. Those things, chasing the eternal dollar, is what is absolutely destroying this environment, because you can push and buy and earn, and the money just keeps cycling around and around, and have you never noticed that? I mean, let me ask you guys that. Have you ever thought about that for a second, where it doesn't matter, you work some overtime, you work a little harder, you work a little longer, you get that big promotion, you look back at the end of the year and you wonder, well, where did the extra money go? Oh, I have had so many of those aha moments that it just, you could shake a stick at it. So at the end of the day, when you get into this environment and this cycle of earn, tax, pay, work, earn, tax, pay, and you just keep going on and nothing ever changes, and you look back in a year later, you look back 2 years, you look back 10 years, and other than you maybe take an extra trip to Mexico, or you bought that SUV and now you're having to work twice as hard for it, and you're having to climb a corporate ladder to pay for that fancy new car. Other than that, what have you really gained? Well, a few years later, a bunch of gray hairs, and realistically, you've probably compromised time with people that you actually care about. Sad part is, when people continue deferring their time into retirement or doing even something better. Retirement's a big aspect, and I'm totally embracing the idea of retirement, because here I am, and I've been doing this now for 6-8 months, I don't know, somewhere in there now, and I have not regretted one iota of it, and I have not even spent one day trying to look for another job. I don't even care. I don't want it, because I do have a side hustle that's helping me a little bit along the way, and I'm able to close gaps. But realistically, if you can find a way to simplify your life, get away from all the noise, and even the network of people that continually talk about, trying to move up the ladder, that energy, while it may seem positive and bright in the moment, it becomes a space of toxic attacks and undermining attitudes, where people are constantly, there's more backshiving going on. There's more people talking smack. There's more people trying to throw you under the bus with the boss. There's all of this negative things going on. It is absolutely horrendous. And so that breeds that environment. What, you want to go into these workplaces and have that battle with people, and constantly the idea of trying to, make somebody else look bad so you can seem just a little bit better? That just seems very much contrary to, I guess, being a good quality human being. And I'm not a fan of that. And I don't think anybody really should be a fan of that. Now, I'm not trying to be all religious, but realistically, it's all just about treating, our neighbors, our friends, people around us with as much dignity, respect, and, have a bit of integrity to base this on. But that's the problem. You give up a lot of your integrity. A lot of people give up on safety if they're, working in field environments for the sake of trying to look good in their work, to, sacrifice. So they're hoping not to sacrifice a job opportunity. All of these things, people do things that often aren't in the best interest of doing the right thing. They're doing it because they're trying to push, they're trying to hustle. And the sooner that you can figure out to get out of that environment, that toxic circle whirlwind, the sooner off you're going to be in a much better place. And see, this is the thing. You've got both ends burning away here. You've got the idea of your career burning away and you're constantly not enough time. You're also trying to earn more money and there's just never quite enough money. But the one thing that all these corporate ladder climbers continue to forget is that, yeah, it's great when you're 32, but, you blink and next thing you know, you're 48 and you're within an arm's throw or a rock's throw reach of retirement. And a lot of times people are no longer prepared because they've been chasing, chasing those opportunities, trying to climb those ladders. And that's where people get snookered. And then you lose all sight and perspective on what quality of life really is. And it's really not, about living in the big house. It's really not, about driving the new SUV. It's really enjoying those times and those days. And we all have our end date. We all have an expiration date. So why would anybody want to spend it working at some toxic job only to find out when a survey like this from PwC states that most of these workers are looking for further job satisfaction and advancement, when I think, there's way better things to do. Maybe renegotiate, navigate your work environment, maybe possibly build a small side hustle, even in some sort of a business. Life is just simply too short. And the idea of working to live and not living to work, it's an insatiable appetite for the next best thing. You get a small job advancement, you're good for a year or two, and then all of a sudden you're kind of looking around, you're getting restless, you're looking for the next thing. And this just never ends. And the same thing with cars and houses. A lot of people just get in the cycle of trying to look for the next best thing. But in doing so, again, they're just watching life blow by. It's like hitting the highway, putting the music on, and just sitting back and just watch the scenery go by. And you could be driving by the Grand Canyon, you can be driving by the Rocky Mountains, you can be driving by the big lakes, you can be driving by everything. And in so many situations, you basically, it's just a blur. You don't even really see those things. You miss it. You miss the Grand Canyon. Whoa, it went by. What was that? You miss all these things in life. That's the same thing. You might miss some of your kids' dance recitals or their swimming lessons. And that's a sad state when we actually don't prioritize our own lives, our own health, because life is in fact short. And again, everyone, it was just a thing that I saw when I had to respond to. I saw this survey done and the idea of, how many people are dissatisfied. I say absolutely they're dissatisfied. There's a big reason for it. The cost of living crisis is burying everybody. People just don't make enough money and never will. It'll never be enough with taxation. You hearing what's going on with the UK and the farmers these days? I can't. In Canada, US, things are just, everything's turned upside down. And sadly, right now, we're in a place where it's just everybody is in this constant cycle of wanting more, and it will never be satisfied. So anyway, as always, everybody, I hope you have an absolute wonderful weekend. And as on top of it, I definitely want to introduce you to another week of our trip to Italy. So check it out. You're going to want to see it tomorrow. I'm going to drop that special on Saturday. Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. See you then. Bye-bye.